Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Pearl and here we review African cinema. If you're a first or second time caller, please have fun, relax. I have tons of videos for you to go through, see if you like what you see, and then I hope that I'm able to persuade you to subscribe. And if you're a several time returning visitor, we already have a relationship, so please don't make me your friends with benefits. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thank you. And of course, this is to everyone. Please like this video. Today we're reviewing Love Note. It's a drama and it's streaming on YouTube. This movie is written by Abdul, Tijani, Ahmed, and Ogechi Nwobia, AK. Ogechi is a familiar writer to me. We've worked together on a number of projects as part of a story team, TV shows on African Magic. And this movie is directed by Akinrogunde. I hope I got the name right. And Love Note is a Diane Rossat production. As a general remark, if you want to maybe really know what the intention of this movie is, I direct you to the paratext of this movie. It's very eloquently stated in the description of this movie, which I'm going to post the link to this movie if you've not already seen it in the description below. So in the description, if you look there, it talks about female friendships, sisterhood, to the extent where it's almost like it's positioned as a replacement for romantic love. So I'm wondering, maybe this movie is promoting the 4B movement. I don't know if you guys are aware of the 4B movement, a world without men or something like that. That's the whole premise. You can check it out if you're interested, but we'll see about that as far as this movie. First of all, let's talk cast and performances. We have Uzoamaka Aniunoh and she plays Maris. We have Beverly who plays Tammy, and these are the friends slash sisters. We have the older versions of their characters played by Ireti, Doyle for Maris, and Najite, Dede, who plays the older future, or if you like, dead Tammy. We have Baaj Adebule, he plays Kenny, that's Tammy's partner or spouse, and Abdul Tijani Ahmed, who's one of the writers, plays Ose, that's Maris's husband. Kunle Remy here, he reprises his role as a resident fuckboy of Nollywood and plays the character of Bash. Tinamba is Maris's mom, and Tommy Ojo, she plays Pearl. Turns out I have a namesake. We have a kid finally who is unnamed in the credits, and it's interesting because he showed up quite prominently. We saw him over and over, but he's not named in on the credits, so I'll just say hi to whoever that kid is. He did all right. Now this is a small cast, and I'll just say as a general note that the acting is pretty much what we expect. Uzoamaka Aniunoh, we know what to expect from her. She's very consistent. She's always such a great performer. Her acting cannot be overstated, so she does no differently here. She's just exactly what you expect from Uzoamaka. Beverly Osu, she's also a competent enough actor, you could say, and she does fine here, especially when put beside someone of Uzoamaka's caliber. And then Ireti Doyle is Ireti Doyle, right? This is a thespian, very well grounded. In this case though, I'm going to say that I feel like she was miscast to play the older Maris. There's not much similarity, honestly, like even height wise, you know, starting there, even the skin tone, whatever. For Najite Dede playing the older Tammy, that was a lot better, to be honest. I feel like that was a better cast. However, I don't like Najite. I love Najite as an actor. I think she's always just incredible. She's superlative. She's amazing as an actor. However, here it feels to me like she just reprised her role as, what was her name, Sarah? I think it was Sarah in The House of Secrets. I was wondering, why is her acting so similar to her character in The House of Secrets? And then when I saw the reveal, I was like, that's because they gave her exactly the same character. Baaj Adebule, he's always a really good actor. He doesn't have much to do here, but for what he's given, I think he does a really good job with the script. And then Abdul Tijani Ahmed, I think that this casting was just a shame. I'm not going to say more than that. It didn't work for me at all. Kunle Remy, I said resident Nollywood bad boy. That's what he is, pretty much, you know. And it's like almost at this point he expects that to be his character, so that even if that's not his character in this movie, it very much is. But even if it wasn't, he kind of always seems to have that vibe. And that's okay. It works here. Tinamba, I've said before already that this woman can do so much better than these mother-in-law type roles. She needs more meat given to her. She's such a gift to the industry. I feel like it's a shame for her to be consistently casting roles like this. All right, that's it for the cast, and then let's just get straight to, guys, what works. As a general statement, I have no issues with the technical aspects of this movie. Barney and Mordy's cinematography is adequate. It's exactly what you would expect. We've seen him over and over. This is a familiar signature. The lighting, I was a bit confused at first when I was watching this. I was like, why is the present, if you're looking at it as past or present and future, if you watch the movie, you understand what I mean. But let's say that the past here is the present, because the other one is the future. So if you're looking at it that way, so I was wondering, why is the present like better lit, looks more modern than whatever the future is? But then, of course, that was explained and justified when you come to the reveal and you realize that that future is pretty much all make-believe, and hence the diffused lighting. So I thought that was really good, using lighting as part of storytelling. Then the costume, makeup, all the other aspects of, production design, they're adequate, they're good. I have no issues. The sound is just classic YouTube sound. Let me just leave it at that. The story, I like the premise or theme, if you like, of female friendships. A similar movie to this was, I think, it's Love and Life. I didn't review that movie, but I keep referencing it because that movie really pissed me off, and that was really not good or interesting. So as far as that theme, or female friendships, this movie is at least not uninteresting. Let's put it that way. Not necessarily my kind of interesting, but not uninteresting. I do like the unpredictability of this plot. It does touch on a few important topics. One for me, which isn't really highlighted, is bodily autonomy in the context of surrogacy. They did highlight bodily autonomy in the context of the D&C, which I didn't enjoy the way that was written, because again, that goes in line with the disagreeableness of these characters, and I'll come to that. So I didn't enjoy that. However, body autonomy in the context of surrogacy was highlighted very briefly, and I don't know if that's true and well researched, and if it's true, then that's very egregious, because while I agree that it's morally right to have agreements within a couple for certain things, I think that the government should stay out of it. So it's kind of like the government should not be the one to be able to tell a married woman whether or not she can act surrogacy for another couple or whatever. The same way the government should not be invested in telling women whether or not they can have their tubes tied or not. Nobody is telling a man of whatever age whether or not he can have a vasectomy. So I just wanted to say that. I will say that this movie is in a way memorable. You could say that, whether for the right reasons or not is an entirely different matter, but it does provoke conversation. That much I can say. So that's as far as I have for what I like about this movie. So let's get straight to what does not work. Now, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of just everything that is wrong with this script. There are too many details. This is exactly the definition of the devil is in the details, like many tiny things. So you know what, let's just do broad strokes here. There's nothing interesting about the future selves of these characters. That whole when they're self-congratulatory, and I'm looking at them like, you guys, your lives sound like they were pretty basic and actually really sad. So I don't know why they're here kind of like, we did live life, right? We live life, like you guys you're congratulating yourselves on being a bunch of narcissists, and that is wild to me. So I didn't find that interesting. I really like the highlighting of, again, I've already said, friendships in general, but also female friendships, all the WSW women supporting women, being a girl's girl, that's all good. I believe that female friendships are important, and also movies about friendships in general. I agree with, like I said, the paratext of it's not only romantic love that matters, friendships are so critical. However, I don't like the juxtaposition in this movie of these relationships with our romantic partners as though this was mutually exclusive. Ultimately, rather than this being a story about just two women who care about each other, love each other, and watch out for each other, it just ends up to me being a story about badly behaved women who want to behave badly without consequences. And so these characters, they're supremely unlikable, and that's fine. Like, I don't look for likable characters. I look for fascinating, intriguing, interesting characters. However, these characters are unlikable in a very cliche and uninteresting way. Like I've said, I don't really enjoy watching them, and honestly, I really don't care about whatever these ladies have got going on, and that's not interesting for a movie. Tammy is supremely unlikable. That's the character that's played by Beverly. She's just completely unlikable. And this character has no introspection, has no self-respect or respect for others, takes no accountability, has no boundaries, learns nothing. And the HIV that she's stamped with at the end, that's also very much a cliche, and I'll talk about that a little more later, maybe. Maris is selfish, and then her husband leaving her, it's not the repercussion that the movie pretends that it is, because this woman never even wanted a husband in the first place. I think that in the end, it was kind of like she told her mom pretty much, I'm not going to get married or whatever. If she said that as a joke or not, how are we supposed to know? But then she meets this guy. We're not even walked through how that romance happens, which, considering who was cast as her romantic lead, I think that's a good thing. But that said, it just happens pretty much off screen. We're just presented with this relationship we're supposed to get with. So the movie itself is as uninvested in that relationship as the character themselves are uninvested in that marriage, and so when it ends, it really doesn't feel like any kind of loss. Their husbands, both of them, these men, they are flats, they are one-dimensional, they are cardboard cutouts figures who are pretty much just puppeteered, I don't know what the correct word is there, throughout this movie, making increasingly implausible decisions. It's crazy. All these men do is they just go to work, come back, and they are all about whatever shenanigans their wives are about. That's what it is. None of that is interesting to me. Finally, this movie just keeps piling on, and yet it's structured in a way that, there's a lot happening, right? It's not lacking in events. However, the structure makes it so that what should be like key moments, important moments, they just end up being pretty weightless. Let me give you a few examples. When Maris meets a man, presumably falls in love, we don't care. Tammy decides to be Maris's surrogate. That's a huge thing. No impact. Tammy gets the green light for her logistics business. It's not interesting, because you don't even get the sense that she cares. It's just like everything that these characters are doing are designed to antagonize these men. So I don't care. And then Tammy has an affair. There's no weight to it. It just feels like just drama for the sake of, what? Tammy's husband forgives her. First I think he leaves and then he comes back and he forgives her. It's not impactful in the least. Tammy is diagnosed with HIV, life-changing, whatever, is kind of flat as well. Maris's husband leaves. What a yawn, just a huge yawn. And then Maris has a baby. Even the way that scene was shot, the baby is up there at the top of the bed, and then they are down here like, oh, she's so precious. I'm like, oh my God. And then finally, by the way, they reveal that Maris is actually dead and Tammy has Alzheimer's or something. Again, these are all, if you take any one of these things, you could write a whole story around somebody who is trying to get their business off the ground. A whole story about somebody who said, I'm not interested in love, and then I find love. A whole story about somebody who cannot have a baby and then their best friend decides to surrogate for them. All of these things are big things, every single one of these. And yet, maybe it's because it was too much being done in this movie, but I would argue that all of these things could have fit in this movie if it was crafted properly, which it wasn't. So the narrative, again, general note, uninteresting. None of these events or these, happenings evoke any feelings at all. It's just vibes. So in conclusion, I'm just going to say that I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. It's not a beautiful story about two women, like I said, who love and take care of each other. And it really could have been that, it's just a story about bad decisions and selfishness, and then at the end, their future selves coping. There are no stakes. There's no real conflict. Let me say, though, that while watching this movie, or rather, after watching this movie and thinking about it, it occurred to me, that perhaps the point of this movie could have been, what is called counterculture or counter narrative, because I feel like I see it. It's not necessarily there on screen, but I feel like I see a counter narrative happening in the conversation around this movie, which is, for instance, in Nollywood movies, we typically have men doing the types of things that the men in this movie are doing. They cheat, they bully, they gaslight, abuse the women, whatever. They are wicked, and then in the end, they're just forgiven and taken back, right? So I can almost imagine the conversation in the writer's room being, what if we do that? It can't always be men who get away with, stuff like that. But the problem is that this movie doesn't actually, first of all, make a point of that, and you have to be a bit more intentional and clever about meta narrative like that. But it doesn't even actually commit to that because there's still repercussions in this movie for the women, however cliche. Also, the way these men are written, again, still going with the idea that this is meta of some sort, the way these men are written is also how movies tend to, especially in Hollywood movies, but just in general also, even in fiction, you know, just the way female characters are so underwritten to where, you know, there are a bunch of cliches and stereotypes and things. So I would say that maybe this is also a commentary on how Nollywood handles female characters for the most part as almost accessories with no, you know, depth or complexity. And also this movie's intention, if we're going with this same premise, that this movie's intention is that men are completely superfluous in the lives of these women and therefore superfluous in this story that is being told, right? Maybe I'm giving this movie too much credit, but let me say that if that's what was intended, then I could say that they succeed, right? But does it make for a good watch though? To me, I say no, you know, but I don't know. I agree again that female friendships are important, and that's the reason why I'm going to give this movie some credit for going into what I would consider largely uncharted waters as far as our industry. However, that's kind of where it stops. You know, is this movie a good representation of the genre of female friendships? Is it a good addition to that genre? I'd say no. This is sort of a representation for lack of accountability, lack of boundaries, and just a lack of respect for others. I cannot tell if these men are victims of these women or if the men themselves, as well as we, the audience, are victims of less than adequate writing. But my concluding thought is that this movie is not for me. I don't not recommend this movie. You know, if you've already watched it, I'd like to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't, I'm not going to say don't watch it because, like I keep saying, it's not uninteresting. There's conversation to be had around some of the things happening here. I do commend Diane, and like I said, I see partially what the intention of this movie is, and there's definitely room for growth. All right guys, that's it for Love Notes. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you find value in my content, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I really do need your support. Thank you so much, and share this video. And what do I tell you guys? You have the right to an incredible viewing experience, so never settle. Thank you.